a lot of money.
You know, I've been working this out, Werner. So far, you've made over 50 films, dramas and documentaries. You know, I'm not sure if you draw any distinction between them.
Facts and reality sometimes, quite often, are not enough. You need an enhancement, an intensification of it, some sort of an essential version of things to make things transparent.
Blurring the boundary between fact and fiction, Herzog's documentary Little Dieter Needs to Fly would eventually become not one film, but two.
One of the airplanes came diving at our house, and it was so unusual because the cockpit was open. The pilot had black goggles that were sitting in his forehead. He was looking, he had actually turned around. He was looking in at the window, and the machine guns were just firing because the flashes, I keep seeing them coming out. And the left wingtip just missed the house by 2 or 3 feet as it ripped by. It was just a fraction of a second. It was like a vision for me. It was like an almighty being that came out. It was just something else. It's very difficult to describe. But I knew from that moment on that I want to be a pilot. I want to be a flyer. From that moment on, Little Dieter needed to fly.
Little Dieter tells the story of Dieter Dengler, a German boy whose dream of flying led him to become an American citizen and to volunteer as a US Navy pilot, destined for the killing fields of Vietnam and Laos, and finally, brutal imprisonment by the Viet Cong.
He swung for me, I ducked, it missed me by a few inches. He hit Dwayne in the upper leg, the blade was deeply buried in it. Dwayne screamed, he reached down, he grabbed his leg, screaming, and with the next swipe, Dwayne's head came off.
In filmmaking, like in poetry, there is an inherent deep truth about ourselves, about our world, which can be discovered. And that's the most fascinating for me. It is not the factual Dieter Dengler all the time. Sometimes I invented, I stylized. When I met him for the first time, I walked in the door, and right next to the door you see 7 or 8 or so little canvas paintings, oil paintings, all of them open doors.
Well, this is the inside of my home. As you see, when you come into my house right away, there are pictures of open doors. It's been always very important to me.
He said, yeah, you know, for me it denotes freedom to be able to open and close a door. And I said, you bought it because it's open doors. No, he said, no, he denied it. It's not that I bought it because of open doors. You know what, it was such a good bargain. Each of these paintings only cost me $10. That's why he bought it. And I said, Dieter, this is so wonderful. We have to make a scene of it.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
I said, deep inside of your existence, that's what makes you into Dieter Dengler. This is a condensation, it's an essence, it's an ecstasy of what Dieter Dengler is. And he looked at me and he said, well, that sounds kind of weird, but I think I understand you.
Most people don't realize how important it is and the privilege that we have to be able to open door, close the door. So anyway, that's a habit I got into, and so be it.
He directs documentaries, and you find a lot of filmmakers who are making documentaries more or less produce them, but they don't so much direct them, which is what I love about his films.
Uh-oh, this feels a little bit too close to home. Bye.
The other thing that clearly happened in this film is you made Dieter really himself reenact what happened to him.
A few moments, yes. He reenacts, but he suggested it himself. And so we did it.
I thought, you guys behind me with your camera can only see my back, but you can't know how my heart is thumping inside. I told myself, okay, play along with them. Running like this might chase the demons away. Whenever we near the village, that's when they really became aggressive. They stuck small little pieces of bamboo underneath my fingernails. They cut my arms. They put pieces of bamboo, actually they stuck it in there and they left a piece of bamboo in there. They cut here, they cut here, they cut here, at various different places. Then one guy had this idea, they put this rope around my upper arm. Like a tourniquet, they put a piece of wood in there and twisted it until the nerves were cut against the bone. My hand would drop and this hand was completely unusable for 6 months.
This amazing emotional moment that's made by a filmmaker. That's the kind of cinema that he brings to documentary that you don't see enough of. How did that make you feel when you were watching it?
Well, yeah, a little queasy up to a point, but at the same time, I felt that Dieter was happy to do it. Dieter was a bit of a performer himself.
More than that, it puts the audience through the experience, doesn't it? Because, you know, he just to recreate it in the recreation sense, you're always kind of distanced from it. Putting that man in that situation made you as an audience member somehow there with him because it's so outrageous that he's making him go through this again.
In 2006, Little Dieter Needs to Fly was remade by Herzog as a Hollywood feature film, starring Christian Bale.
I'm not gonna bail out! I'm not gonna bail out!
What made you, having made such an exceptional film anyway, decide that you're going to make Rescue Dawn?
When I asked Dieter to have a look at the finished film, the lights went up in the theater and he turns to me and he said, "Werner, this is unfinished business." It was obvious that there was also a story of great significance and intensity that was begging for a big screen.
Little Dieter Needs to Fly is a much more fictional film in a way. I mean, that's the irony, isn't it? That in a way, Rescue Dawn is much more of a documentary. I mean, you see all the stuff with Christian, and he's really being put through all of that.
The film did pretty well, but it wasn't exactly trouble-free.
It was full of trouble and it was very, very ugly. The production was extremely ugly. Daily events that are beyond description. I cannot even tell it on camera, so ugly. And however, I had the nerve to keep the film out of all the daily trouble. And I kept the integrity of the film.